One of my favorite superheroes has always been Wonder Woman. And if you're like me, then you're in luck, because we now have a game called Wonder Woman Challenge of the Amazon that helps you to enter the universe of that beloved DC character. Wonder Woman plays from 2 to 5 people ages 8 and up. It is a cooperative game. In other words, we all work together to win or lose the game together as a group. So, in the base game, we are trying to defeat the evil villain Ares. And we work together. As I said, each person takes the role of one of the Amazon warriors, which starts in the middle of the board game. Now, what we're trying to do is to bring Ares' life force down to 0. Depending on the level of difficulties you want to set for this game, he starts at a certain number. In this case, I chose 15. We, as the Amazon warriors, have a life force of 20. Ares wins the game, or the game wins the game, if our life force goes down to 0, and we win the game if his life force goes down to 0. Now, what's interesting about this game is that at the beginning of each turn, each of the warriors receive 2 face-up cards and 3 face-down cards. So I'm just going to quickly do this here with the 2 other players that I'm playing with. 2 face-up and 3 face-down cards. While we're negotiating with the other players of what we're supposed to be doing next, we're not allowed to look at the 3 cards face down, which will later on become part of our hand. So we only know slightly less than half of what we actually have available for options this turn. So we can now discuss with each other what we're trying to do to defeat Ares. Before we do this, it's Ares' turn. We basically turn over the top card from the Ares deck, and depending on what it says in there, those are now the tokens of the evil force that are being added to the board. So in this game, for example, we're being instructed to add 2 purple cubes to a certain space on the board. Now, for every cubes that are still on the board, once we're done our round, we will get penalized by sacrificing some of our life force. So we have to make sure we're wiping out as many of the cubes from Ares' army as we can on our turn to kind of prevent getting punished with a lot of negative points. Now, we do this by activating some of our action cards. We all get, as I said, 2 face-up action cards and 3 face-down ones, and the action cards have different symbols on the bottom. The different symbols, there's a small legend in the game, will allow us to take different actions. For example, if the symbol is footsteps, we might be allowed to move. If the symbol is swords, we're allowed to kind of battle some of the evil force, etc., etc. So at this stage of the game, we're all negotiating with each other. So I might say, look, I got this card here that allows me to walk very far. How about I go over there, and then you, player number 2, do this, and then you, player number 3, do this. After that, we're done negotiating. We flip over the 3 cards that we haven't seen yet, and we now choose 3 cards from the 5 in our hand that we will choose as our upcoming actions. And depending on our choices, we place them on our player board from left to right. Each player does the same thing. After that, every player flips over their first card and does that action in whatever order we feel is best for the team. So I might ask this player to go first, and then I go next, and she might choose to go last. We take our actions, then we flip over the second card. We take our actions, we flip over the third card, we take our actions. Hopefully, we were able to wipe out some of the cubes on the board to kind of weaken Ares' power. For every time we attack him, he loses some of his energy. If there's any cubes left, again, for him, there are certain rules which cubes have to be left on the board for us to get penalized. We might lose now some energy force. And the game continues. Again, it's Ares' turn. He turns over his top card. We add new cubes to the board. We get new cards. We negotiate what we're going to do, etc., etc. We keep playing until Ares, as I mentioned earlier, has only 0 points as a life force. The only caveat is that we have to use a specific sword as the final stroke to bring him down to 0 points. And the sword is usually given to one of the players in the beginning. In order to charge the sword, she has to visit 4 sections on the board to collect the Wonder Woman tokens in order to make the sword usable. If she's done this, she can now use the sword to give Ares his final death stroke. So that's Wonder Woman, Challenge of the Amazons. It's a lovely cooperative game with an interesting twist between hidden cards and cards that we can see to negotiate our turns, and I would highly recommend it. So come check it out at Across the Board.